Welcome to the 2% Club. I'm Rach Hirsch, investor, operator, and wellness obsessive in every sense of the word. This show is where wellness and business finally get to sit at the same table. Every week, I talk with the people shaping what we buy, how we move, what we eat, and the rituals we swear by. If you're building in wellness or if you're wildly curious about where the industry is headed, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Welcome back to the 2% Club podcast. I'm Rachel Hirsch, and I'm here with Ariana Thacker of MoldCo.
Hi, Rachel. Thank you for round two.
I'm so happy you're back.
Yeah.
Will you give everyone a little context who didn't listen to part one about you, MoldCo?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started MoldCo from a personal health journey, and what we're building is a virtual care clinic for testing and treatment for mold-related illnesses. We go also by mold toxicity.
Oh, okay, wait. Will you backtrack a little bit and tell us how common is mold and like why we should all be thinking about this?
Yeah, some of my favorite stats are 50% of molds are impacted by mold and water damage that can cause mold.
Whoa.
I've heard stats as high as 70% for just mold alone.
Oy.
85% of commercial buildings have had historic water damage, 45% ongoing water damage.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, and 25% of people have a genetic susceptibility.
Whoa.
Yes.
I think it's so, okay, when you traditionally think of mold, I think of like moldy cheese, or you'll think of like the black mold that you know is really bad. But there's so much beyond that, and it is so disruptive to our body, our temple, our systems. Will you talk a little bit about like some of the ways that you know that it's disrupting your system, like the most common things that happen when there is mold?
Yeah, absolutely. So some people, when they're exposed to mold, they get allergies, and that shows up as a runny nose and sneezing, like what you would expect with an allergy. However, there's other health impacts that can happen too, which we're calling mold toxicity or mold-related illness, and that's more of an umbrella of symptoms that happen to the body.
Okay.
It's not just in one area like sneezing and stuffy nose. It's also impacting your head. So you're experiencing cognitive impacts, brain fog. It's impacting your gut. So that shows up as abdominal pain, gastrointestinal issues like IBS type symptoms, food sensitivities. It can show up with your hormones. So especially like we talked about on the last podcast for women, period changes, painful periods, missed periods, miscarriages, etc. So there's multiple parts of the body that get impacted. We call it a multi-system illness for that reason.
And my assumption is that this is being totally missed by most doctors because the symptoms you said, I mean, even most doctors don't even talk to other specialists to talk about your body in totality. So I'm imagining that this just gets lost in the shuffle completely.
That's right. Yeah. And it's a common misconception to think that our medical system is complete or current, right?
Sorry.
Yeah.
That was funny though.
So, yes, this is common. That's why this company exists. It's impacting many people. Our estimate is 25 million people are severely impacted by mold in the home.
Okay. So let's say I've had what I thought were allergies for the longest time. My allergist, the shots, they aren't working. And I'm like, I want to test for mold. How does one do that?
Yeah. So to test for mold in the home, what you would typically do is start with a dust test. And it's super easy. You get a Swiffer pad. You wipe down different surfaces in the home. It's kind of like fun to do.
Yeah.
To find. And then you mail that into a lab. We offer this product as well. So you mail that into a lab and they do PCR testing, which you're familiar with from the COVID nasal swab testing. But they'll give you a report with the most common mold strains and how prevalent they are in your home. So super quick and dirty. You can do it yourself. You
Pun
don't
intended.
need. Yeah, exactly. You don't need a home inspector, or if that's positive, or you can just jump to the step right away. You can bring in a home inspector who's certified in mold, and then they can find where the mold is and how bad the issue could be.
Do you help with the finding of the mold inspector? Because like I wouldn't know where to begin.
For our patients, we do. So we have some local recommendations. It's usually not a hard step though for patients to find a local inspector that's
Okay.
also qualified. That's like one of the easier steps in the journey.
You're like, I wouldn't stress about that one.
Yeah, that part not hard. Quick
Okay.
Google search, you got this.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so then like panic sets in. I have mold. What does one do?
Great question. So one, it depends on how extensive the issue is, and your inspector should be able to help size that for you.
Okay.
Typically what would happen is they would produce a report that then you can present to a remediator, and they can help correct the issue. That's if you own the home.
Okay.
If you're renting, you have a lot more options.
Oh.
You can break your lease.
Wow.
You can ask your landlord to fix the issue. It's called a cure notice. When you do that, you could also temporarily isolate the issue. Usually in apartments, it's not an extensive problem, because in homes it can impact the crawl space and the basements and the attics, and especially in older homes, it can be a very pervasive issue. So hopefully that's not it for your apartment, and you can isolate the issue and have air purifiers. But I actually like when renters have these other options versus an owner. You're basically forced to remediate at some point.
And I assume that's like expensive and construction-y, and I'm out.
It can get expensive, yeah, for remediation.
How effective are air purifiers in this? Just like generally, I guess. Was this something you 10 out of 10 recommend?
Depends the air purifier.
Okay.
Yeah, so we like Air Oasis.
Okay. Not sponsored, but we love this.
Yeah, not sponsored. Yeah. They're great. I have 3 in my
Oh my
home.
goodness.
Yeah.
Okay.
Huge fan.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go shopping.
Yeah.
Okay, so then how quickly could I plausibly recover from some of my mold symptoms?
It really depends on the patient. So if you're in this genetically susceptible bucket, chances are it's a longer road. So even if you're out of exposure and starting to recover, that can be a very long road. For those patients, typically they would need treatment to get better. The good news is around 75% of the U.S. population should get better when they're out of exposure, but that timeline could also take a number of months too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so how often should we be testing our homes?
I think once a year is appropriate, and also responding to your environment, to your home. If you have a leak or flooding or any sort of water damage, like that's a good time to come in and try to correct the issue. But yeah, I would say like once a year is a great approach, especially just a dust test. It's super easy to do. Yeah.
Are there certain geographies that are more susceptible to mold growth?
Yeah, so coastal regions,
Awesome.
Subtropical regions, yeah.
LA, got it. No taken.
LA, yeah, especially like states like Florida too, like coastal and subtropical, and an area of high humidity. So if you have over 70% humidity in the home, that's a flag that that could cause mold in your home. So these are some of the signs to look for, but mold can happen anywhere, even in desert climates if there's a water source. So if you had a leak, for example, then that could trigger a mold issue in the home.
Okay, so what should I be doing regularly to help prevent mold growth?
Great question. So maintaining your indoor humidity is important.
How do you do that?
Sorry. No, that's okay.
What does one do?
Yeah. Dehumidifiers are great. Yeah,
How
great.
Wonderful.
Great option. Yeah, my place had high humidity, so I love a good dehumidifier. Yeah. If there's water damage, correcting that ASAP.
Okay.
And just being vigilant for the signs, like, for example, earthy, musty odor, visible mold, cracking, peeling paint, warping of any kind, discoloration. These are some of the common signs in the home that there could be a mold issue.
Okay. This is a silly question, I imagine, but is it mostly like behind the wall so people aren't going to see it?
Our best estimate on that is roughly half of homes have a hidden mold issue. So it can be in the HVAC systems or behind the walls or in the crawl spaces or in your basement. So areas you're not really going that often.
Right.
So yeah, we think hidden mold is a common issue.
So would the dust test even catch that then?
It could. It really just depends.
Okay.
Yeah. Just because the dust test is negative doesn't mean there isn't potentially a mold issue, but it does catch a pretty big range of scenarios if you were to do a dust test. Really, the best approach, if you want to be thorough, would be to do the dust test and then hire an inspector too.
Okay.
And they could also look behind the walls. There's boroscopes that go behind the walls. There's also they can punch a hole in the wall to look behind the wall. There's thermal imaging where you can see if there's a temperature drop. Yeah, for an existing leak. So there's a number of different techniques to try to find a hidden mold issue too.
We should normalize this being a part of the home buying process. Like that, you do have so many inspections for X, Y, and Z, but this isn't a part of like the normal. I think we should add it in.
I think so too, and we're starting to see a trend of just a lot more awareness of this issue too. It's been mold has been, you may have noticed, going viral online. So now there's just increased awareness around this, and even states changing their regulations to adapt. Yeah.
Are you noticing doctors reaching out or becoming more interested in what you're doing in terms of assisting with diagnoses?
Definitely there's a lot more interest. So, and just one data point, in my recent annual checkup, my doctor actually asked me about mold.
No
Yeah,
way.
that's the first time
Like
that happened.
unprompted, doesn't know what you do.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
So I'm like, wow, is this part of your normal intake process? And she said, yes, it's new. And then I asked, what do you do if someone comes to you with mold? And she's like, well, we just kind of leave it at that. I'm like, okay, well, great first step.
Progress over perfection. We'll take it.
Yeah, so that was an interesting data point. And then also George Washington University just launched a program too, covering the Shoemaker protocol. So we're guided by the Shoemaker protocol on the care side. It's the only evidence-based approach. It's also published. I would say it's the only proven approach in this space. So they've now adopted that program at their medical school.
Will you double tap into what that is for those of us who don't know?
Yeah. So the Shoemaker protocol is a approach for CIRS, chronic inflammatory response syndrome, sometimes known as mold-related illness. And it's been developed over the last 30 years or so by Dr. Shoemaker, who's our founding physician, and other clinical researchers in this space. And a quick summary of the triangle, it's presented like a triangle online if you look it up. Getting out of exposure, doing prescription binders such as cholestyramine or colesevelam, treating something called Marcons in the nasal passages, and that's typically done with an EDTA-based nasal spray. Correcting the whole sequence of biomarkers with these treatments, and then ending on the VIP peptide step as the final step.
Okay.
So he developed this stepwise approach to get back to better health after a mold exposure happens for patients.
Wow. Okay, really cool. Can we keep going on the medical front? My favorite topic, obviously, is women's health.
Yeah.
And I want to double tap into some of the places. I know we started talking about like hormone health and how it affects that. I want to dive a little bit deeper if you have some pieces there that we can share.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so where within women's health would you say it's the most problematic or the most recognizable maybe?
Oh, interesting. So this is still emerging data, but what we've seen with our female patients and also with Dr. Scott McMahon, our medical director, and Dr. Shoemaker's patients is we've seen early onset menopause, multiple miscarriages, women even in their 20s having to do hysterectomies.
No way.
Yeah, so we've seen these more severe cases. Hypothyroidism, also very common in the female patient population. And I would say less severe, but still problematic and common would be painful periods, heavy periods, irregular periods too. So we've seen the span of these types of issues presenting in our female patients.
It's so interesting because, I mean, it's a very emotional time, especially like the perinatal, trying to get pregnant, all of that. And I don't think this has come up. I have so many friends going through that or who have gone through that who talk about all these really expensive tests that or these like drastic measures that they have to take. It's what they think their options are. And this is such an interesting one that I hope becomes like really regular in what people are talking about and doctors recommend, because can you imagine all of these miscarriages potentially being helped by just mold testing?
Yeah, it's a super interesting question, and I think it should be considered in one of the front facing questions, like, are you being exposed to mold if you're having trouble conceiving?
Right, because it's such a simple test, and so many of them are so invasive and so expensive. And if this is, this is like a great entry point for so many.
Yeah, it has the potential to save thousands or tens of thousands of dollars.
Right, exactly. I mean, I imagine, is it covered by health insurance?
So our test currently not through MoldCo. Our lowest cost test is $99 though, and we offer that like nearly at cost. So
right. I just imagine that it would be, as someone who has to hedge, I guess, from a health insurance standpoint, I'd want to offer this to be covered at least with HSA and FSA, because surely it's going to cost me way more if someone is sick rather than just like get this test.
Yes, absolutely. So we do HSA, FSA coverage.
Look at that.
Yes.
Plug.
Yeah, plug. But insurance coverage, no. There are some providers in this space that have found a way to use billable codes for the labs. However, it's not always consistent for patients. Sometimes the insurance covered rate ends up being higher than what we're charging for our lab. So we're like, let's just do self-pay. So it's a consistent price. It's low cost. It's easy.
Not to go down such a rabbit hole with it, but I have heard that recently about so many different things that people aren't sending things into insurance. It's almost like GoodRx, where it's cheaper to like find a coupon or go direct rather than go through insurance, because what insurance ends up charging you is higher. I think insurance is on its way out. I really stand by this.
That's happened to me too for the labs. Like sometimes it's completely covered and other times I'm paying hundreds of dollars out of pocket. So super inconsistent experience. Okay,
so I've been talking a lot about periods and menopause, partially because girls are starting to get their periods so much younger. Do you think that there's any sort of, I mean, I imagine there's not enough data yet to like say confidently, but mold playing into some of this?
Oh, interesting. I personally don't have any insight on that right now. So within this space, it's still an emerging field. I would say women's health is even more emerging, and then like pediatric health for this is just a whole new frontier.
Totally.
But that's something I'm very interested in learning more about and very curious about.
I imagine as like a mom to find out that this could affect your children, like you're on it then.
Yes. So that must be our number one request, is when are we going to get into pediatric lab testing?
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense. So even so many of our portfolio companies, as they've entered the children's space, the market is wild. And that's part of how it came. Children's tampons and pads, which is a wild concept, is we've been seeing so many companies. And so that's when I started digging into this new information of how many like 6-year-olds and 7-year-olds are getting their period. But it reminded me, because when you said that it could induce menopause early, I was like, oh, I wonder if it could induce periods early as well.
It's an interesting question.
Yeah. Okay, so you're going to dig in. We're going to have to do a part 3 when you come back with the information. Okay, what else is really important for all of the listeners to understand and know about mold and diagnostic and taking care of themselves and all of those?
Yeah, so for people still trying to suss out if they have a health issue related to mold, I would consider these questions in your day-to-day. One, do you feel better when you're not at home or in the office? Crazy. Like if you're spending time outside, do you feel notably better or away from home? So that's one question. 2, did your symptoms onset tie to when you just recently moved? Or when you had water damage in the home or a recent flooding event? Like, did any of those events happen and then you experienced symptoms right after? 3, are your symptoms getting progressively worse over time and have lasted at least 30 days at this point? And are those symptoms brain fog, fatigue, gut issues, gastrointestinal issues, sleep issues, frequent urination where you're having to get up in the middle of the night? These are some of the more common symptoms. Some other symptoms also include weight gain, too, usually unrelated to diet or exercise. You're just having weight gain for seemingly no reason.
Interesting.
Not listed in the symptom clusters or the published literature. We also frequently see hair loss too. So for example, when I was dealing with my mold issue, it looked like little critters were coming off my scalp. I was just losing so much hair to the point where, now I just sport a short haircut instead of long hair. But yeah.
It's so interesting and honestly frustrating because so much of the body's response of telling you something's wrong is across a variety of things. Like your body inflamed could result in hair loss. Your body inflamed could result in bloating or weight gain or the sniffles. And it's so hard to diagnose what's going on. And that's, I think, what you were alluding to before, how frustrating it is with the medical system that it's not holistic enough to really be able to identify that.
Yeah, and it's even more confusing for doctors when you're coming in. For example, our average patient has 27 symptoms.
Right.
Right. So you're presenting that to your doctor, and they're like, I don't know what this is, or it's probably in your head. It's probably stress or anxiety, or they just keep going through this like referral ping pong system, right?
Yes.
Like, so the patients are going to immunologists, allergists, neurologists, pulmonologists, etc., doing a whole battery of lab tests and imaging, and still having an inconclusive answer or a misdiagnosis.
It's so crazy. Is there something for those people that, I love this for you, are building their own homes? Is there something you can put in the house that helps like protect it more?
So I haven't personally used this, but I would love to at some point. There's this sandstone material called rammed earth that you can use that's apparently very mold resistant. There's a few people in the mold community that I'm in that are actually building these homes.
No way.
And they look so cool.
Okay, I'm 100% agree with this.
Yeah.
It's just, it's really interesting. We're going through some family health stuff and seeing how minute, really severe health issues can result in such minute sort of symptoms, and then how these crazy diagnoses can then be missed. It's been a really frustrating process to see and experience with my family. So I can just only imagine continually being told that nothing's wrong, or you're telling yourself nothing's wrong because it's such like minute symptoms, and it's actually, you have mold everywhere.
Yes. And just riffing on that point, it is a bit of a checklist process, which I think is also why it's hard to squeeze this into a 15-minute primary care visit too, on top of everything else there is to discuss. So one, having the mold exposure in the home or office, wherever you're spending a meaningful amount of time. Two, having the representative symptoms. If you want to Google something called the symptom clusters, you can go through that and see how many apply. We also have a free questionnaire called Signs on our website. And then three, seeing if the labs are dysregulated or off. Something's off with the lab. So those are the three checklists: exposure, symptoms, and labs. So all three together give you a pretty clear picture on whether your health your current health status is due to mold. So how is mold impacting your health?
Of those labs, are there certain markers we should note?
Yes. And this is probably going to sound like Greek, but
I can't wait.
Yeah, it's been developed over the last 30 years by these researchers in the field. And these are the markers that are consistently off. For example, MSH, melanocyte stimulating hormone. That's low in 95% of patients.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. There's also MMP9 consistently really high, close to 90%. TGF beta 1 consistently high, close to 90% as well. So there's a fingerprint of how the labs show up for these patients.
Are those common in most blood tests that they'll test for that? Or no?
No.
Oh.
No.
So we have to be specifically asking for this.
Yeah. Some of the labs that we test for that are commonly used are ferritin. We typically see low ferritin or sometimes very, very high ferritin. We also test for anti-gliadin antibodies. So essentially your response to gluten. So those would be the labs that are more commonly tested for.
Are you telling me that some people who have gluten allergies might not actually have gluten allergies?
Yes. So that's what our research has shown. And anecdotally, that happened to me too. I wasn't sensitive to gluten before my mold issue, and now I'm sensitive to gluten. So my anti-gliadin antibodies are quite high. So I try to avoid. I love bread. I love cookies. It's challenging, but yeah.
Okay, I sort of want to end with, why do you think that there has been why has it been so viral? Is it that it's more prevalent? Is it that people are why is mold viral these days?
That's a great question. And I think it's just getting approached from so many different people, from so many different sides of the equation. So one, there's been an increasing number of lawsuits happening in the 8-figure zone.
Oh my goodness.
Like I'm talking like $32 million plus lawsuits.
Who's suing who? Sorry.
These are college students, tenants.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So there's just a lot more of that activity ramping up. There's state legislation changes happening. There's military moms at DC protesting about the conditions on the military bases. It's been cited as the number one issue on the military bases, by the way, in this thing called Operation Countermold. There's been a number of celebrities. It's been permeating culture. It's been, I'm sure maybe you've heard of The Regime with Kate Winslet on HBO and also Made on Netflix. So both of them reference mold heavily in those shows. It's also been just really permeating TikTok.
Yeah.
In a big way, especially the last like 4 to 6 months.
That's how I became obsessed with it. And I'm rarely on TikTok and it found me.
Yeah, so it's just been showing up in so many different places in so many different ways.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so interesting. Okay, so part 3, you're going to come back to us with more hormone women's health information because I'm fascinated by it.
Yeah.
But this was so fun. Is there anything else we're missing that we need to share?
I think don't gaslight yourself. Like if you're experiencing the symptoms or part of this podcast felt relatable, definitely double click on that. It's important.
Well, and we'll put in the comment section a link to you can get your own tests done. We had a bunch of our friends after the first one get the test done and people were obsessed. I think it's just like the more information we have about ourselves, the better decisions we can make.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you have questions at any time, whether you're a patient with us or not, we have a support email and that's support@moldco.com. And we also have a lot of free content and guidance too. So again, whether you're with us or not, we have a lot of support resources to help you go through this journey because it is very complicated.
Yeah, you're amazing. Thank you so much for being here. This was so fun and fascinating.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this.
I can't wait for part 3.
Same.
See you all next week.